in Australia. And Winston, I don't know, maybe
he hangs out in Gibraltar.
But maybe he came down to Lijiang Tower first. Like maybe that's just kind of where the landing port is. I don't know. I'm curious. I'm trying to. We need the Lijiang Tower cinematic. That's what I'm waiting for. But coming out the gate, because we're on Control Center, it's actually not quite Goats v Goats. We do have Perfect flexing onto a Mei.
So
to keep things interesting.
This is a little bit of a variation that we have seen. It might have been EU Contenders. I'm trying to rack my brain specifically to where we did see it. Where the Mei is being brought into specifically, very much so in Control Center, by the way, where you know they're going to play Ryan Goats. You are just specifically trying to counter out Ryan Goats with your own Ryan Goats, but the X factor being the Mei here. So we've seen teams come through with, you know, Annas and whatnot, but here it is, the wall straight away.
That's to try and isolate Frost. They don't quite catch him though, and he's able to pull back. That surprise factor is also now gone.
So now you're in the sort of space where New Paradigm still have to be careful with their approach. If they go a little bit too quick without seeing their members, they can get split off.
Oh, Baxter gets caught out by the charging from a Ting, and now they isolate Unknown, freeze him up, drop him down, and speaking of Frozen, Frost is off the table as well. A Ting just all up and down this kill feed, and this is what the Mei is designed to do in this situation. Nice late DMAC on Tato. Wall goes up to make sure that they can secure the kill and that there's no threat from the respawners while they do so.
And note this is usually the Diva position that's missing right now. VK's the one playing Zarya, so if Perfect did want to change, he'd have to go into something like McCree or maybe play the Diva, which is something we haven't seen quite yet for Hong Kong Attitude. Now, coming up to that Blizzard, it's going to be the big ultimate.
It's going to be tough for New Paradigm to fight through. They don't actually have any ultimates of their own just yet. By the time they have them, Perfect is definitely going to have that Blizzard. They just look to move forward. Tato trying to find an angle. Takes a lot of pain on the mech, though. That was a bit of an overextension, unfortunately.
Oh, look at that.
Too many steps too far. Stopped them all from getting back into the spawn. Shield's shield does not last for long enough to save everyone. A Ting does go over the edge, but Hong Kong Attitude will have long since reset before that's a problem.
You're at the sort of stage now where Hong Kong Attitude can still hold here even without a Ting because they have the ult to do so. You play the Grav, you play the Blizzard, and any combination thereof, and you are going to force New Paradigm into a bad spot.
Oh, that's an interesting way to do it. The Grav on one side, the Blizzard on the other, but I think the Blizzard might have gotten eaten. That's a little unfortunate. It was otherwise a very clever setup, and now Perfect kind of separated from his team. They did find Frost. Perfect needs to be able to regroup here. It's going to be a little bit tough. CQB taking the hurt, but they have fallen back together now. New Paradigm did still take the fight loss.
And that is actually a nice disengage rather by Hong Kong Attitude. Note that they started to lose. The Blizzard didn't really do anything there. Maybe it got eaten. A Ting rejoins the fight. Perfect still survives. Now Unknown's going to play his own Mei.
That's interesting.
Hammer, nothing.
Again. Yeah, whoops. And Frost is donezo. Again, appropriately to the Mei. Self-destruct on the other side of that. Out of Tato, does not find anything. Nicely blocked. Perfect. Snipes out his counterpart with the right click. And again, just good hold from Hong Kong Attitude. This is going to be an almost flawless shutout.
Yeah, it's going to be an even better hold considering New Paradigm haven't even touched the point at this stage, and they might not do so.
Frost does get there, forces the overtime. Now here's going to be the collapse to finish him off. You kill the Wrecking Ball, then you've got a 6 versus 5 on the front line. Frost does get a decent shield, but still can't quite buy enough time. That's a grab just to stop anyone else from contesting. Absolute shutout on Control Center.
Bucks are even denied from the sound barrier there. Just everything going wrong for New Paradigm. The sort of adaptation to put out their own Mei from Unknown was a good one, but it was a little bit too late. Should they probably have considered doing that a little bit earlier? The confidence there, just, I don't know, they were probably thinking they just keep playing Ghost. Maybe they break through the wall. You could actually see there towards the middle sections of this sort of engagements. They were just waiting to bait out the wall from Perfect, then push in, but they just never really happen. A Ting lands a massive shatter, just sets up more combos, sets up more hold for Hong Kong Attitude. We spent more time at the New Paradigm spawn than we did at the actual control point.
Well, at least we got familiar with it. Hong Kong Attitude. They look like they do want to run this bit of a change of pace here now. They're going to be popping a Pharmacy in the sky.
They want to play anti-Ghost today. They're not interested in going mirror comps at this stage.
I don't know, anti-Ghost, what do you call that? Slaughterhouse? Bucks is taking some pain. One more rocket will do it, but he gets back into cover on the point. This is the dangerous point for New Paradigm, though. The rotation, and Chills is not going to be able to get back by the looks of things. Shaolin is the one able to finish this one off, and now they can just start raining rockets in from the side. Should be able to get onto the point to contest it, stop the cap, come into the fight with a numbers advantage now.
This is about the point where New Paradigm, they have to get some counter trades because they're losing so many members, because they can't get any members back. They still haven't even capped. There's nothing to play off whatsoever. Hong Kong Attitude's just going to get the cleanup, then the cap themselves, then going to the next push. They should have an EMP.
And this is exactly what we used to see out of Farah's on night markets. It's all about getting rockets and just hammering people on the rotation as they're moving into the point. And I mean, Hong Kong Attitude executed it near flawlessly.
And they're just reading New Paradigm so well. They know what comps New Paradigm want to play, and they know how to counter them. They also know how to execute right now with Perfect, sitting on 97%. Just a touch will get the EMP.
So now New Paradigm trying to rotate through in cover instead. Perfect goes in, commits, has to translocate out, but the rest of the team is poised to follow up on it. They get in nice and quick, smart. Gonna look to clean up a good number of kills here, charge up all the rest of their ultimates, what few weren't already available. And New Paradigm look like they're just not even sure how to approach this now.
And it's about nearly 6 members now for Hong Kong Attitude. As soon as CQB gets the Valkyrie, all of them will have had an ultimate, will have used one by now. New Paradigm still waiting on their first, already sitting at 40%. This isn't as huge of a shutout as we saw on Control Center, but honestly, it's not quite too far off right now.
Yeah, I mean, if it goes 100-0, then effectively the result is the same. Unknown needs to really connect this grab. They're looking to make some space for themselves. Shaolin gets somewhat blocked out, but they're still able to finish off Tito's mech, and Ref did die in the dive as well. Shaolin, now that the mech's out of the way, just absolutely starts popping off. VK even gets a late one. And again, charging up other ultimates. They are a little ways away from the EMP, but good stagger kills, late deaths coming through for Unknown.
And not having the EMP should be the turnaround time for New Paradigm now, who finally are about to sit at 6 ultimates. After having none, they get about all of them. And for Hong Kong Attitude, that was probably the most expensive fight. 3 ultimates used there, 2 now remaining. The Transcendence might be able to save them if they had it, but they don't even have that. So outside of a VK huge bomb, they're going to probably lose this point here.
Yeah, the Valkyrie just doesn't do as much for you in these situations. That EMP is nearly available, though. Early Valkyrie committed. They're willing to just go for it. The grab is in there. It only found a Ting, who's getting saved just for the time being.
No kills yet.
Popping up with the Transcendence. VK self-destruct didn't go anywhere. They've just kind of ceded the space for now, which I think is a smart call. They were looking to maybe come back in now with the EMP. They need to get the kills very quickly. They've raised Mango Jai, but this is no Ting on the front line. And Shaolin was only able to throw in rockets from the side. They just didn't have the damage to follow up in the EMP. They're actually still trying to aggress on this one. Nice catch on Ref, but I think this is where Hong Kong Attitude back up.
And the economy trade is actually worthwhile for Hong Kong Attitude. They stalled out the cap a little bit more, get themselves to 97%. Traded 3 ults on their side for 5 on New Paradigm. That's actually a winning trade in favor of Hong Kong Attitude. You don't need a perfect 100-0 here. You just need to win, collect the 2-0, move on to your next map. And for Hong Kong Attitude, they're set to do that with only 3% remaining. They need 1 fight.
You wouldn't have minded EMP, given that it came out later than the rest, but they've still got these other tools, and immediately the Rocket Barrage finds one. Traded back, though, by Tito, so it's not all smooth sailing as CQB goes down, and Mango, having long since used the Transcendence, gets picked, so now New Paradigm finally kind of finding their feet in this fight.
Yeah, but Perfect is nearing that EMP now, going down. It's just going to slow things down a little bit, give New Paradigm a bit of time, get the Transcendence available, get the Graviton Surge, and have some win conditions of their own. If New Paradigm can now win this next fight with those 2 ultimates, they can push for their own 99% overtime. And for Hong Kong Attitude, it's EMP or bust. If they can get the EMP on both those members, they win right now. If they don't, New Paradigm can come around.
Would not underestimate Hong Kong Attitude's ability to just outfrag, though. Unknown, maybe looking for some kind of grab here. There's the EMP commitment, but where's the follow-up? Got it, seeing in the Primal Rage, finds Ref, nicely done, and he was not able to transcend thanks to the EMP. Now they find Chills, Ting starting to really rack up the kills on the kill feed. Frost taking some pain now. He does find himself in the middle of a Graviton Surge, and he will not survive it. Self-destructs out from Tedo. VK is going to commit his own here. Perfect goes down, unfortunately, and CQB does commit the res to a Ting, but Hong Kong Attitude, they're going to have to find more kills. They're going to have to find some way to stay in this fight. Double Transcendence from the Zenyatta's.
It's going to have to come through for Shaolin right now. Very close to Rocket Barrage. Need to see some kills.
VK's down.
As VK goes down and Hong Kong Attitude are losing members.
Ting is pressured off the side, and meanwhile on the point, Shaolin goes down to Unknown. This should be New Paradigm, holding steady throughout that fight. And you said it at the start, either the EMP was going to connect big or it wasn't, and they were going to lose it. And, well, the latter played out, and now we are tied on Lijiang Tower.
And that's the thing, because the EMP did connect, but not only do you need to shut down both Unknown and Ref, which did happen, they also need to clean up on kills. Now, they got Ref, Transcendence taken off the board, at least temporarily, but they couldn't get Unknown. And once the grab landed on Hong Kong Attitude, 2 kills came out of that. Ref then respawns, speeds out of spawn, Transcendence in the hand, directly goes on top of the point, saves everyone else onto New Paradigm. You look over at Hong Kong Attitude side, what ults do they have? Maybe a Rocket Barrage coming up. Shaolin doesn't quite get it. And I do want to say, from Shailin's perspective, the fire was very quiet after the second half.
That's the thing, they did just have to outfrag, and you make a good point about the Pharaoh. New Paradigm did finally seem to remember how to play against it on Night Market, kind of tapping back into metas of old. Now, gonna get the old Winston Goats mirror here, so Hong Kong Attitude finally gonna lean into Goats.
And once again, it's the CYC effect that you played with your food a little bit, now it's time to play Goats.
Very quick kill onto Frost. Unknown gonna go down as well, finding Ref as well with that same shot is perfect. And look, there it is, like you said, they're done playing with their food, they're here to eat.
And that's the problem, like, I do respect that, but at the same time, it's problematic when teams are trying to counter on Goats, and the Goats counters are not always working. It's the teams that are playing the 3-3 on the Goats that are usually coming out ahead still. And for Hong Kong Attitude, having to bite the bullet on that, having to go back to their own Goats, it's not quite biting the bullet when you consider it's a winning composition though, and Hong Kong Attitude, they want to win.
That's the thing, you can run other things, but sometimes it's best to just run Goats. That's the nature of the beast right now. Now both teams just going to run at each other for a little while. The ultimate's coming up available. Ting is the first to commit, and immediately the kills start to come through. And I think New Paradigm knew that that was likely just not a fight they were going to win. Getting the late grab out of Perfect is actually pretty nice for them. They now have an opportunity to maybe come back in with some ults of their own.
And they're not even losing their own members, so it's not like New Paradigm are about to really contest with heaps of ults coming up. There are going to be ultimates coming online, but for Hong Kong Attitude, they're now using ults to win and then coming back with more ults, support ultimates available, so even when the grab is available for Unknown, CQB and Mango Jai should be in position to counter.
So the Goats economy machine, once you give it a stimulus package of a few kills, just keeps chugging away, keeps generating that value for you, those ultimates. CQB was maybe looking for a right click there. That's going to be the grab to come out quickly from Unknown, but that's the boot that CQB had been angling for. That means the follow-up is just not great out of New Paradigm, unfortunately, having only just really charged up those ultimates. And now Hong Kong Attitude can lean into those ultimates they've charged up. The sound barrier from CQB to give them a health advantage. Back to zone 1 expires very quickly. CQB finds another boot kill. A grab might not have been necessary, but again, when you consider the ultimates they got out of New Paradigm, it secures the fight. Hong Kong Attitude over 80%.
And when you look at the ult charge as well, Unknown's at 15, Perfect's at 8, but actually Perfect is already fully lapped Unknown by this stage. He got another grab in the middle of that fight after using one previously, and for Hong Kong Attitude, they're allowed to just tap into that, and now he's overtaken Unknown.
And that's the thing, if grabs are a factor, Perfects will be a factor first. Self-destruct forward from BK is just kind of into the abyss, but it doesn't matter on the front line. Frost, Shields, and Ref all get picked out, and whoever sneaking the point on the backside of that one very quickly gets found out. I believe it must have been Unknown. Now Tito here, this is all just peasants attempting to stagger it out when all is already done. And Night Market did actually go very even, despite coming close to a shutout, but much like Control Center, Gardens will be a shutout in favor of Hong Kong Attitude to take Lijiang Tower.
And sometimes you're going to win unceremoniously, kind of like what we just saw here on Gardens. It was just a very clean victory, a lot of fighting. It wasn't the kind of shaming that we saw on Control Center. You didn't make your opponents walk go down a walk of shame or whatever. You didn't embarrass your opponents like you did on Control Center, but sometimes that's the way you got to win. You don't need sometimes 100-0, but if you do, it's just a very cleanly played 100-0. The fights just go your way. You've out-economied your opponent because you snowballed so far ahead, and you're not even really demolishing them, but you are just slowly winning.
And that's the thing. There doesn't have to be anything special or fancy about it. Like you said, unceremonious is how I would describe it. It was just the composition doing what it does best, and Hong Kong Attitude playing that very adequately. And the thing you've got to say is, look, Like you mentioned on Control Center, that Mei strat is very specific to Control Center. Hong Kong Attitude played it to a great proficiency, and it works. On Night Market, they actually did nearly make it work. There was just that point where enough ultimates were generated by the GOATS comp, and from that point on, Hong Kong Attitude were playing catch-up, which, funnily enough, is exactly what New Paradigm were just doing for the entirety of Gardens when it was GOATS v GOATS. So you've got to say, look, Hong Kong Attitude, they can win the mirror. They're close to winning in that more asymmetric situation, and you've got to consider that does favor them as we move forward onto these maps where we will see some GOATs, but less.
It's just the catch-up, the nature of the catch-up for the anti-GOATs, well, the attempted anti-GOATs with the Sombra and the Pharah. It's harder to execute on those ultimates once you do get them. Like the EMP isn't a free win. You have to actually get onto the EMP, collect the kills, consider that you need to hit certain people in the EMP, and even then, maybe that's not enough. It's just too tanky, the positioning isn't right. It's so easy to mis-execute or just something to go wrong. The rocket barrage, it's easy to just get blocked out. Maybe you can't find a position, you get shut down straight away. So many things can go wrong while that's happening. When you're playing GOATs, it's a complete mirror. You know you are just a better player, play for player, pound for pound on those exact same heroes. Very small chances, very small margins of error for things to actually go wrong.
And just feeling that as a team, you've got the better macro game, which we've got to say Hong Kong Attitude did throughout all of that. Even actually on Night Market, where they did eventually lose out, they had a very, very good macro game for the majority of that. And then when they were starting to lose, again, it wasn't because of the macro game, I'll say that much. There were other issues at play there. It was execution, it was how they were approaching fights, and maybe just a bit of a compositional weakness in that particular situation. So on the whole, deserved win for Hong Kong Attitude, and it's setting them off on the right foot for the series. This is why we are saying, despite the closeness, they are the favored team here.
And I think for Hong Kong Attitude as well, they get to dip their toes in the water and just feel out the temperature, because now they get to go into future maps and say, well, the counters, the fires and stuff didn't quite work out, so maybe we don't risk that again in the microcosm of a small best of 3 contained within a control map. If you lose one of them, you come back on the other one and you win the entire map anyway. You do that on any other map where, okay, well now your entire defense is blown or you don't finish capping an offense. It's a lot more punishing, so get that out of the way quick. Now you know what you're playing up against. You know what can and cannot work. If you have to go and play GOATs versus GOATs and just play the mirror, you know you can win. That's a safety net that Hong Kong Attitude have now been able to address and identify. So going into the rest of the series, I said this earlier, but it seems like pound for pound, Hong Kong Attitude are better individually as players. So it's going to be difficult for New Paradigm to match that. At least for the time being. Moving forward, though, they do still have an opportunity to match. We are going to be going on to Hollywood. That will be the pick for New Paradigm. So we'll see what they choose to bring out here, because, look, let's be fair to New Paradigm. They do actually have a decent GOATs of their own. It just wasn't ideal how it was all playing out, and Hong Kong Attitude were able to counter it out. With Hybrid, it is more asymmetric than Control, and that same idea of, oh no, this team just has the better GOATs, doesn't always apply, because you need to approach it differently on the attack and defense. It's not a mirrored map.
So there are still opportunities here for New Paradigm to actually take a GOATs v GOATs mirror and still have some success. And I actually think now moving into the map as well, as we start to head in, is the fact that from the one previous match Hong Kong Attitude did play, we saw Super McCree, we saw Bunker, we saw a lot of different stuff from them, so they still get to tap into that. They still get to use that against New Paradigm, and it'll be up to New Paradigm to try and play against it. The phrase lights, camera, action always bothered me, because there's a lot more to it than that.
Lights, cameras, extras, coffees.
Sound speed. Set.
5, 4.
Everyone knows you can't shoot until the sound is speeding.
Looking at this defense first for Hong Kong Attitude. Not going to shy away from a good bunker. Perfect onto the Widow, Shailin onto the Junkrat. We know this comp pretty well. It counters just about everything. And now that New Paradigm want to play Ghost, well, Shailin's ready to collect that ult charge.
Yep, and this is exactly what Hong Kong Attitude ran in their first game on that Hollywood defense. It was this exact bunker comp. They're just kind of playing their greatest hits here.
So now where we have seen teams fall over, and that includes GE Pantheon just a little bit earlier, was if you whiff this Junkrat Riptire, things get bad very, very quickly. So for Shylin, that needs to be able to hit. Perfect right now is leading the way in terms of ult charge, so that you know his damage is definitely sticking.
And if they can use that Infrasight to angle their Junkrat tire. Oh, nice catch. Unknown does survive, but Bucks are not so lucky. Now Unknown does eventually go down as the collapse comes in. Very nicely done by Hong Kong Attitude. That cycles into those ultimates.
Worst case scenario now as well, Tedo just kind of doing nothing. He needs to try and he slipped as well. Things just go really poorly.
There's no time for a nap, Tedo.
For New Paradigm, they just want to reset, but they're not being allowed to. More time being wasted. Eyeing onto the Genji, Unknown onto the Sombra. It is smartly now time to change things up.
And, I mean, these are good picks for these players. We know Iron's Genji. It is very, very good. Has been spotted, though. And they do still have to contend with that rip tire.
And this does have to hit. This is where things could go poorly. If they can shoot out the tire, that's how they can actually win this attack right now, because Hong Kong Attitude don't have any other ults.
We haven't actually seen a lot of big tires connecting. We have actually seen more getting shot out and stopped.
It's been even to me.
Tires connecting.
50-50.
I think we've seen a couple more on Horizon, but at any rate, here's the dive in. The tire's going to come out from Shylin, looking to wrap around the side. Go to hack. Yeah, the tire finds Ref. It's a connection. It's plenty enough as they manage to catch out Unknown as well. And New Paradigm don't exactly have ultimates they can lean into. Shylin is way far back as well, perfectly safe. The only person going down in the dive is Perfect.
It's going to be another stagger onto Tedo as well. Now, the problem I have with Tire is, while that's being channeled out, as a Junkrat player, you're not actually doing any extra damage, so what the real utility and what the real impact of Junkrat is you're spamming down grenades, using concussive mines and the steel trap and all of that, the regular kit, that's what's deadly while you're using the tire. Nothing's happening until the tire hits. That's why a lot of defenses go sour when the tire does nothing.
Now just...
That's embarrassing.
Sitting back. Yeah, whoops. But for now, sitting back. Waiting. They've got the other ultimates to lean on.
EMP, by the way.
This is going to be a bit of a scary thing, but they'll know where it's coming from for now, thanks to the Infrasight.
They've got to defend against this. Mango Jai is going to be the key player here. He has to stay out of the range, get himself the Transcendence so that he can counter out the effects of the damage followed from the EMP. 60 seconds as well means for New Paradigm, if they fail this, it could be all over.
There it is. The EMP does catch, but Mango, he was very quick on the fingers there, counters that out. Frost with the Primal Rage in this very confined space spells disaster for Hong Kong Attitude, trying to lean into their ultimates. Perfect has already gone down. Iron's coming up on a Dragon Blade, could be dangerous. They commit the Nano Boost out. VK does still have a self-destruct. Shylin's found a
shut down.
VK finds Iron as he pulls out the blade. Frost does trade back too, though, and Shylin does go down. Frost really keeping this one alive for New Paradigm, whom, with that closer respawn, should be able to stabilize here, should be able to eventually take control of this point. VK does still have a self-destruct he can commit here, and he is trying to stall. Perfect just come back in on Tracer, got there in time, kills Frost, reset on the mech. Now Hong Kong Attitude aren't out of this yet.
Not quite, they have 6 members and Tyres ready to go. Sound barrier used by Buckster as well. Shylin has to connect.
By the time he's there, the sound barrier will have run out. He's looking for more, finds Ref. That's something. They've traded with a Ting, though, so it's not quite ideal. Iron goes down, though. Tato, self-destruct out. Doesn't find anything, not even VK's mech, which will finally go down to some wins. No, not even. Nearly went down, but healed back at the last minute. EMP's got to be the closer that New Paradigm are relying on, but Frost is low. It's looking like this might be the one. Perfect's lasted this one out, though, and he's got a pulse bomb if he can connect. No, Frost finds him. Tato, he's been low this whole time, and Ting's got this nano boost running on him. Now he wants to find Ref. Again, Hong Kong Attitude have actually managed to reset here, but a Ting surrounded on 2 sides. He will finally go down, and that was the last piece. Nope, never mind.
Perfect's coming in.
Back in.
By the way, there's a pulse bomb. If it lands, maybe something happens.
He's too far away. Finally, New Paradigm get it.
I do want to say, though, despite all that Hong Kong Attitude, because they forced the overtime with that defense, 230 for New Paradigm pushing into B, we're already into the territory where New Paradigm probably don't have enough time in total to finish the entire map. In fact, they'll be quite fortunate to even finish B at this stage. For Hong Kong Attitude, land a pulse bomb, swap Perfect onto something else, and then continue the defense.
I do like this Perfect on Tracer, Shylin on Doomfist. It's very high threat for those backliners. Pulse bomb, very quick and committed. That's when the rest of the dive can come in and clean up the kill. And it's only the one, but it gives Hong Kong Attitude that extra time here.
By the way, love me some dive, even though it looks like both Shailin and Perfect will be changing. Likely onto Goats here. Again, they don't want to take any risk, and you do have to respect this. They learned their lesson when they played Night Market, and they said, we wanted to experiment, didn't quite go well. Now it's time to actually just win the game.
And it's the mirrored Winston dive here. Hong Kong Attitude have a Transcendence, so they've got a bit of time for Perfect to charge up things like the Graviton Surge. Looking to take the fight, just want to get aggressive, diving in very quickly. Bit of pain went down, but New Paradigm are fine for the time being.
And couldn't quite get the kill onto Buxer as well, and that's unfortunate. Oh, Ref, speaking of unfortunate, doesn't say Frost.
Very quick from a Ting, choosing to actually pop the Primal Rage, and it does pay off for them. That was actually quite an interesting commit because they didn't need to, but they chose to, rather than just sitting there and waiting for something like a grab to come up out of Perfect.
And now you're under 60 seconds again. Teto is going to be kind of shielded there, still waiting to remake, and you don't really have time to wait for this. Has to now go spawn and potentially just nope, doesn't decides to
just about to remake as well.
Decides to keep the self-destruct charge there, which I can respect as well because you do need that.
Ooh, a Ting, slight misstep, a little bit far forward, and a big whiff out of Perfect. Meanwhile, Unknown's Graviton Surge connects beautifully on the remaining members of Hong Kong Attitude. That is a very unfortunate passage of play if you're a Hong Kong Attitude fan, but New Paradigm get back on the cart with just a little bit of time to spare.
And even if we do go into the overtime here, VK with a late stagger kill, New Paradigm pushing towards this finish line onto B with way more ultimates than Hong Kong Attitude. No real win conditions in sight for Hong Kong Attitude for this next defense. It's likely they lose B here.
New Paradigm have just kind of got away with murder for a moment. Double rally to come out. Now Hong Kong Attitude commit to the cards. Frost forced to pop the Primal Rage and CQB sound barriers to keep the team in the fight for that extra little bit. They're trying to rotate into something, anything really. But now with Mango Jai, he's already used his Transcendence. New Paradigm find him out with the self-destruct, and suddenly the floodgates open. VK does not get the same kind of leverage in response, only getting Tito's mech. They don't even finish off the pilot form. New Paradigm are going to cap B.
Look at the discipline here for New Paradigm. Even when members were low, Buxer and Rev held onto the support ultimates. They know they need some power going through onto C. They need some ultimates. If they use too much here, they're not going to cap C. They're playing for the long game here. They want to finish the entire map. And for Hong Kong Attitude, not forcing the support ultimates is going to seriously potentially cost them the entire map.
Very nicely played by New Paradigm. They're setting themselves up to, at the very least, maximize distance. Very aggressive grab as well, and the straight charge in. A Ting does get one back. Frost, though, he didn't end up going too far forward, which is nice. They get that extra space in the payload, and Frost got the charge up some ultimate.
And they're still pushing now. You get to see how New Paradigm get to collect on the dividends of saving those two support ultimates. Perfect is about to get the Graviton Surge, and they have the exact perfect counters to survive that grab.
Now it's just going to be a scrap around the cart. This does help run down the clock, so it's a bit something for Hong Kong Attitude to cling to, while New Paradigm are waiting to get something like Frost Earth Shatter available. Perfect grab goes in, but a Ting goes down. Baxter, they didn't even need to commit. Rev's Transcendence there. Unknown finds one. Teto is over. That's fine. Perfect, beautifully found. And Unknown scoops up two on the other side of that one, and now they might actually cap this one out.
And they still have a Transcendence as well. Rev can keep everyone alive. Okay. Frost can get that shutter down. There's so many ways to win.
It's blocked out by the Transformers. The self-destruct finds nothing. The Earth Shatter is in. A Ting has not connected. Teto might even get back in the mech at this rate. Might not, because the map's already complete, and wow. I'm not even sure if that went into overtime when all was said and done. If it did, it was just barely. That was absolutely phenomenal out of New Paradigm.
We're about to find out 4.5 seconds in the nick of time as well. Woo. A perfect storm of circumstances there for New Paradigm. Being able to push through into the overtime onto B without using support ultimates, baiting just about everything out what was remaining from Hong Kong Attitude's lockets, and then going into C, having the correct counters. Perfect was the only real win condition coming up from the Graviton Surge, uses only the sound barrier to counter that one out, still kills a lot of people from the New Paradigm side, onto Hong Kong Attitude that is, pushing through into the finish line of C, then having the Transcendence still in, Earth Shatter coming online for Frost, landing onto everybody, a Ting getting absolutely demolished. Hong Kong Attitude from the cap onto B to C just had no way to win.
Like I said, just because Hong Kong Attitude won the Goats v Goats on Lijiang Tower does not mean New Paradigm cannot win Goats v Goats. And now, I mean, that all kind of came down to that one fight earlier on B. A Ting overstepped slightly. Perfect's Graviton Surge went wide, and they just never got back into it from there. New Paradigm had the ult economy on absolute lockdown.
And this is going to have to be an absolutely amazing push from Hong Kong Attitude. You have to snowball from A to B, all the way to C finish with a decent amount of time remaining on the timeback. You certainly don't want to be into the overtime and less time than even New Paradigm. I think for Hong Kong Attitude here, they have the capability to do so. This reset between swapping sides might just be exactly what they needed.
Hong Kong Attitude coming out the gate on the goats. Iron and Unknown. Doomfist Sombra defense. We'll see how they choose to play this one out, looking to try and catch the rotation. Isolate CQB, good catch. They even find a Ting, and now the rest all just start to crumble. Good finish off by Unknown to make the most of those crowd controlled and isolated members. Even Perfect not going to get out of this one alive.
And it's also Buxer onto the Ana as well. The Bionade's just going to help so much against Goat's composition. The full gong ringing out. I'm the only one actually going down now. Unknown, a little bit of time to charge up more onto this EMP. And you're now going to see a bit of a Super McCree comp coming out of Hong Kong Attitude, which is correct because the double stun is how you're going to shut down Iron on the Doomfist.
Unknown was able to position far enough forward that they've spotted it out. So they'll at least know this is coming. It won't take them by surprise. But it does make it tough for them to assess and aggress on this team.
You can see here, Hong Kong Attitude just trying to find an opening to get out there. New Paradigm trying to find that kill. As soon as that Rocket Punch lands on the somebody, that could be instant death.
That's what they're banking on. Stun on Iron, speaking of instant death. That's how it plays out. And now suddenly Hong Kong Attitude have a numbers advantage. They can sit Perfect up here, just hammer away, gets Frost low, forces him away from the point. Flashbang shot onto Baxter as they wrap around. Now just looking to take possession of the restaurant. Muscle ironed away from coming back in. Frost does at least find one, but he will trade his life for it. And Hong Kong Attitude looking to take control.
And there's only a couple members that can contest here for New Paradigm. Maybe they'll do it. There is an EMP, but it might just be too risky.
I think Unknown knows that between him and Tato, it's
going in.
dangerous. Oh, they commit, but they can't use the self-destruct. Unknown chooses to not use the EMP, so those two members there, Ein and Tato, choosing to go in was just a bit of a mistake. Oh!
I'm actually going to say it's not a mistake because they forced the Transcendence out of Mango Jai, which is going to pay dividends a little bit later on that defense. Considering the EMP is still available now, New Paradigm, if they can set up for a nice defense here, which I believe they should be able to, as soon as they get 6 members, dive on, Doomfist straight in their faces, EMP to follow, straight away you're going to get some picks.
Doomfist does still need to respect the double stun. As does Unknown, you can still be counted out. It's got to take some quick reflexes, but can be done by Shaolin.
5 volts is just so much of the deal. CQB needs the sound barrier so much, and he needs to survive against EMP as well, but might not be time for that.
There it goes. Oh, doesn't actually catch everyone because those support members were hanging back, waiting out for that one. Deadeye finds Ein. The only casualty of the EMP and collapse has been Shaolin so far. Is now Hong Kong Attitude back in the driver's seat. Flashbang to finish off Tato. And this is not the fight New Paradigm wanted to take.
I'm a little bit surprised Ref didn't commit in there with his own Transcendence. In fact, neither support ultimates went in. Maybe they were relying a little bit too much on the Nano Boost, or rather the EMP, which caught a decent amount of members. But Perfect just managed to dodge that one out, had the Deadeye still channeled, and for the rest of the New Paradigm, just didn't commit.
Now suddenly the pendulum swings back the other way. It's Hong Kong Attitude looking better off in terms of those ultimates. Close to a Transcendence, close to a Deadeye. All their tank, other ultimates available. Now is New Paradigm coming for their final defense. Self-destruct on the cart from Tato. Does not find anyone. Does not get back into the mech what am I trying to say? Perfect channel and Deadeye stunned up. He is going to be just fine though. Pulls back nice and quick. It's unfortunate that he didn't get anything for that ultimate, but all's well that ends well for Hong Kong.
Tell you what, he got the cap because both the members remaining decide to go after the Deadeye instead of contesting the card, so you'll take it. He doesn't die either, which is absolutely amazing for Hong Kong Attitude. Snowball push going into 4 minutes and 4 seconds remaining. If they can get this in the next couple of minutes, they're going to have a solid time bank to play with against New Paradigm. That's going to be their big advantage.
Now just setting up to make it difficult for New Paradigm to approach without just taking shots from Perfect. If he ever sneaks one through onto Baxter and Ref,
oh, what a flashbang.
Oh, sick onto Frost. Now it's just going to be about cleanup from here, honestly. Teto cannot absorb all that damage with Baxter and Ref so far away.
Frost now changing onto the Rhine as well. Looking at New Paradigm, where are the ults? What can they do here? Nearly another Deadeye for Perfect. He's doing so much damage, and New Paradigm are struggling to pierce the veil here to try and get this McCree down.
And this is an almost ultless fight, but a Ting being the first casualty helps New Paradigm so much. That numbers advantage, now they collapse onto Shylin. This is what New Paradigm have needed. Better late than never.
Yep, 3 minutes remaining as well, which means still very defendable for New Paradigm. Well, actually, still, what I mean is still very attackable or winnable for Hong Kong Attitude, but for New Paradigm, the fact that you get these minutes down, 3 becomes 2 becomes 1, and that's how you get it.
He actually survives because his team was coming back in. That was, Tedo nearly just flew straight by that one. He was like, hey, wait a second.
You're not meant to be there. New Paradigm unknown, that's the grab.
There's going to be the follow-up as well. Transcended south from Mango Jai, so they haven't got the kills out of the grab. Ooh. Tedo has to throw the self-destruct forward to preserve his mech there. He was just about to get forced out of it. Both teams just reset. BK around the side, though, isolated. He's going to lose the mech. And this is the opening, but a huge Earth Shatter out from a Ting! Out of nowhere, around the side, finds the angle. Tedo stalls it out for a second longer, but now the gong rings out. I don't know if anyone's going to be able to get on this one in time.
Rip has to ult straight away.
And just when you thought that New Paradigm looked good, Hong Kong Attitude again outclassed them.
Yeah, right at the end there as well, finding that last Earth Shatter. To be honest, it could have gone either way. There's a world where Frost gets his one down just a little bit earlier, or blocks out a Ting's, then gets the counter Shatter. But because the Ting actually manages to land Frost on his back as well, then clicks the kill into Frost, there's no chance of a counter Shatter play. So that kind of heads up usage by a Ting is what really gets Hong Kong Attitude across the line. But at 3:05, this is now an insane time back. I will say New Paradigm got themselves extra 55 seconds from the bump up to 1 minute, but for Hong Kong Attitude, I think they definitely got off the back of a Ting's play there. If New Paradigm had maybe have seen that coming, this could have been a little bit different, but bygones be bygones.
Now New Paradigm are in the tough situation where they've got to attack first, and they only have 1/3 of the time that Hong Kong Attitude will have. So Hong Kong Attitude, they only need one good defense, and when you consider that New Paradigm didn't cap until overtime, and it took them a long time in overtime on point A initially, you've got to say Hong Kong Attitude are theoretically in a good spot here.
Yeah, for New Paradigm, what you're really expecting here is it's not quite expected for teams to finish a full cap onto A with 1 minute. Teams can do that, but it is quite rare. What you're really trying to do here, your goal should be to get some progress. 1 tick, 2 tick, something like that to make your defense defendable. But if you do manage to get the full cap onto A, for New Paradigm, that is a big win.
Gonna go ahead and run a pharmacy. Hiding on the side is Hong Kong Attitude. They want to get an opening pick onto...
I should have spotted this. They know something's
Ooh,
up.
they found unknown. Oh, nice translocate away from the bash. Now Hong Kong Attitude, they have to pull back. They're able to do so without any casualties.
The thing is, as soon as you see no one at the cafe and no one's shooting back at you, you know Hong Kong Attitude are pulling out some cheese shenanigans. It's for New Paradigm right now. Ooh. They have a good setup.
Oh, Ainz, just too much damage. Becomes insurmountable, and the cleanup on the ground as well. Perfect trades one back, but unless they get a lot more and fast, this will be New Paradigm.
Ainz doing work.
Yeah, he's just unstoppable right now. And that's the thing, in moving back, Hong Kong Attitude just took a lot of damage from the Pharaoh. There's no way for them to take cover, no way for them to really counter it and deal with it. And off the back of that, New Paradigm going to secure themselves a point.
And on Lijiang Tower, I said Hong Kong Attitude were able to read New Paradigm's composition so well. This time, it's the opposite. It's New Paradigm saying, we know Hong Kong Attitude are going to be playing a Ghost defense. We know the Farah is going to counter you out. And Hong Kong Attitude, they could have chosen to run a Widow. They could have chosen to run Super McCree. Because they didn't, Ainz manages to win this attack for them. And now they cap out A. And now they're in a very good position to potentially win in time back.
Speaking of, though, they have now made the swap onto Super McCree, and New Paradigm are going to make the swap onto Goats. If they can kickstart that ultimate economy, they do have a window to do so. New Paradigm can get a lot of distance on this card.
And any distance here is just bonus for New Paradigm. Anything here could just get them a victory. For Hong Kong Attitude, stopping them ASAP is going to be priority number 1. Perfect playing the Doomfist says, we just want to get frags, we just want to end it here.
Same deal with Shylin, but Shylin's playing high risk, high reward. Unknown commits the EMP. Now they're looking to follow up on that. Mango Giant makes it hard, but they still find CQB, and as soon as the Transcendence runs out, Mango Jai pops as well. Makes it very hard to keep these tanks alive. Oh dear, that's quite a lot of casualties for New Paradigm though. They need to finish off this fight quick, smart, and then reset back onto the payload. Perfect going down. Very important. Shailin picks just before he can toss that bomb out. And now it is just VK stalling for a few extra moments, but New Paradigm will be able to regroup. Going to move into a Super McCree of their own.
And now this push is going to end around the finish line for B, which is absolutely not where Hong Kong Attitude want to be, and that means in their own overtime push of 3:05, they have to get this far. This is potentially too far for them to push New Paradigm. This is already an incredible amount of distance for their car.
Getting an absolute mile for their inch right now, as they've still got the tools to back this one up. Rally about to be available. They've got a self-destruct if needed. A Ting's Primal Rage is going to have to be very high impact. But Perfect already low. He's down. Does not get saved by CQB Sound Barrier. Just a split second too late. So many S's in my sentences. Ein is going to get picked off though.
Nearly did I.
Trade back. Shailin's low. Unknown Channel's the Dead Eye, but Frost gets picked. Tedo's low. Must self-destruct to preserve the mech. And they need to stay close to this cart. We'll get back on the mech. Unknown gets found out by Mango Jai, who is just starting to frag out now. Self-destruct out from VK. Forces people away from the payload. And finally, Hong Kong Attitude will find where the cart will stop.
And they get to breathe a sigh of relief, but you can see the panic starting to sit in there as soon as you see the cap going over onto A. As soon as you then lose the following fight onto B, you know things are going to get bad. You know this cart is going to go some places. If you then lose B, it's basically impossible for Hong Kong Attitude, or it should be. Right now, this is still somewhat doable. In theory, Hong Kong Attitude can get A in their first attempt, snowball onto B, and still be able to finish this map and still be able to get this victory onto Hollywood. But man, New Paradigm have set a precedent here, and New Paradigm have now finally put their hands behind that driver's wheel, and they look like they're about to drive to the end.
That being said, I would also have said the same after their initial attack, and then Hong Kong Attitude bettered it. So that is not at all out of the picture here. Look, if anyone can get that far in 3 minutes and 5 seconds in this matchup, it's Hong Kong Attitude. You've got to say it still feels very achievable for both teams, in fact.
But I do want to say the difference there is you're looking at two teams attacking with overall 8 minutes on their initial attacks versus going to a time bank where you have a New Paradigm side with only 1 minute. The expectations is just so different for these two teams when one team has 3 times more the amount of time to work with. And still, for New Paradigm, they're able to make that kind of distance. It's actually incredible.
Do believe that Sonic Arrow caught only the Winston. Super McCree from Hong Kong Attitude.
It's a safe comp. You know it works against just about everything.
This has been scouted thanks to that Sonic Arrow. So they know that this is here. Here's going to be the collapse anyway. They were kind of anticipating it. So here, look, they're ready. They pull back. They just want to keep the McCree safe. Looking for their own picks now. Tedo goes down as they find Ein at the same time. And that Hanzo scouting just really doing wonders for Hong Kong Attitude. They knew exactly what was coming.
And this is now going to be step 1 for actually getting a snowball onwards. They only need a couple members to cap here, as they just look for additional kills, wait for New Paradigm to respawn. Not going to be in position to actually contest, so you can see the silhouette's just a little bit too far away. And that's ideal. Hong Kong Attitude get this within the first minute, they get it within the first attempt, and now they can snowball ultimates as well as potential distance.
This is what they need with 2 minutes still on the clock. They can get a far long way without getting stopped up before they hit overtime, then they set themselves up in a good position. You can really cap out that distance with 2 whole minutes. Need to get quick fight wins in New Paradigm without those ultimates. Hong Kong Attitude already finding Ein on the first frag. Now just looking to get something else. Tedo gets drilled down on the payload. The rest of New Paradigm know to turn tail and run here.
This is going so well for Hong Kong Attitude here. They've now won 2 fights in a row. Bucks is going to get the first trade of the game for his team as well for New Paradigm. It's
the first
trying to get some ultimates in there, just trying to regroup. The Graviton Surge available. 1 fight win here for New Paradigm really stops Hong Kong Attitude in their tracks, because for Hong Kong Attitude, they need to maintain this pressure. They need to maintain all of this cart push, including the snowball. If they lose the snowball, they might not be able to finish.
And that's why New Paradigm backed up, by the way. They didn't want to feed any more ult charge than they had to. A Ting is set up on the backside here so they can collapse in on this Transcendence as soon as that Graviton Surge came down. And now they're just looking to play disarray. Baxter does not keep himself safe from the self-destruct. And a Ting just keeping on the backside of this fight. They do need to close it out relatively quickly because they're not actually on the cart here, but they do have an upper hand. Shailin does get traded out, but they pick up Hines. Now they can send Perfect forward, looking to get aggressive with him. regain possession of the cart.
The issue here is the fight's still going too even. They didn't get a cleanup on New Paradigm despite them falling backwards. That means they're setting up for another defensive fight here. Less than 1 minute remaining, heading to that 30-ish kind of second mark here. It's gonna go into overtime, and Hong Kong Attitude actually don't have room for error anymore. They can't make any more mistakes.
It was nicely played by New Paradigm for that reason, to take that fight so that they could set themselves up for a win here. Oh,
that's big.
Frost does not quite get to cover in time, or was just slightly visible. Now Hong Kong Attitude numbers advantage. They just want to play that to its logical conclusion as Tito self-destructs to preserve the mech, and thanks to the sound barrier, he will get back in. Frost is close enough on the respawn that he should be able to rejoin the team here. Flashbang in. Shylin gets picked. Perfect is just trying to sit back, lay in the damage, but they need to actually get the shots. It's hard to do that with Ref's Transcendence there. And now the dive onto Perfect. CQB goes down. Flashbang is there, but Perfect is picked. And now there's only a few members on the payload. I think New Paradigm are going to do this one. They set themselves up beautifully to make this hold happen. And now it's all about follow through. They've done it, and we are tied.
And this is all coming off a huge distance on 1 minute. That's just absolutely insane for what New Paradigm can do. This is why I got to say, it's just different expectations for teams. What you expect out of 1 minute's worth of distance, that just completely blows it out of the water. What you expect out of 3 minutes worth of distance is about that. That is kind of where most teams will get in 3 minutes. The fact that New Paradigm did that in 1 minute puts them in the winning position, which is why for New Paradigm, once they did that in the overtime, I think unless they just make huge mistakes or Hong Kong Attitude somehow just get the craziest snowball as well that really matches what New Paradigm also did on their attack for time back, New Paradigm were just in position to win. They just were not going to lose.
And the thing we've got to start considering as well is, like, New Paradigm, once they finally cracked point A, the rest of their offense was almost completely unstopped. Like, there was a little bit of slowdown there, but the fact that they capped out with a little bit of time to spare such that we could go into time bank was actually pretty impressive, right? It was just good gameplay. Now, Hong Kong Attitude, they capped everything out just that bit quicker, and yeah, look, on paper, that just looks way better, but then when you consider the difference in the time bank, you've got to consider that it's actually the point A that was the anomaly there for New Paradigm.
Yeah.
And the full cap out, and then the big distance off 1 minute, playing so close to the line in the overtime, having that excellent macro game, that's what they're capable of.
And it wasn't even like they got lucky. Well, maybe there is, I'll explain this. The luck factor in there is that they correctly deduced what their expected defense was.
Yeah.
They expected a Goats composition defense, particularly, well, it doesn't actually matter if it's a Ryan or Winston, you're going to be favored with the fire no matter what. And then correctly, that was the defense that Hong Kong Attitude decided to bring out. Now, it's risky because on 1 minute, you know that if it goes the other way and there's a Widow or a McCree, your fire is not doing that much anymore. But if it's Goats, suddenly you're in a super winnable position. It is Goats, so maybe it's a coin toss. Maybe this is the luck factor. They toss the coin, lands up heads, and because it's heads, they just toss another coin, another heads, they keep pushing through. Things go super well for them. They execute massively. And on that A-push, just getting that one cap is just enough to set up all the dominoes to fall over for Hong Kong Attitude. But it's not all over just yet, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, we're tied up 1-1 at halftime. But when we come back, the conclusion of our final match of the evening, who's going to win? Find out after this break.